In this video help, what we're going to be doing is covering some of the screens that we touch lightly on, and I'm emphasize some individual items on each one. We had not shown this screen because we were in the process of making all the different videos. And what you'll find if you click on this right here where it says main menu, this is the main menu in the video help. So if you're in the application and you're working through the different screens individually and you want to take the videos for those screens, you would come to the main menu and do those different videos. So let's work our way down through some items to make sure that we covered everything. We had most of the items covered as we went through the individual videos for these. For example, we look at the equipment assignment report. Just to touch back on this so that you're familiar with where this is at. This is the individual customer client record for the client and the company for each individual item that they have. For example, this is record ID number 1, 2, 3, and it would have a running list of each one of the amounts of equipment and the description for those, for that account and that ID for that particular client, and the contact and the company name. Now, you would obviously do a do action over here to do a find for the actual customer ID that you want to find, and you would go ahead then and build a report based on the actual assigned items for that particular client. So that is that record. Let's go down now to the equipment portal. The equipment portal shows the information for the individual items if you want to see them, a little bit more definition of everything that's in there, and of course there's a description of the equipment assignment tab and so forth as far as that particular item is concerned. And also you'll see the ID for the customer and the actual contact customer name and the equipment individual listing. You can go from here to the customer information screen to see that. Okay, let's move down to the next screen, the equipment service portal. This is the individual equipment service portal based on the equipment being worked on in the equipment service portal, which is on the main information screen for the client. You can delete a record in here, but I suggest, as always, don't delete things unless you have an absolute reason for that. Over on this side, this is the individual items that are listed in the equipment listing, and you saw that basically we were in the customer information screen, and it had the service dates in here. And if you wanted to go to the customer record for those, you'll see each one of them, like this is the ID customer number 1 and number 2. And if you wanted to view those records, you could click here and it would take you to that record within the screen here. Okay. I do have, let's see, go back up here to the top of the screen. We looked at the equipment service portal. Now we're looking at the scheduled service report. And this is each individual item in the service report. Now we did touch lightly on this one. If you're doing a find, again, in this particular case, if you're looking for a customer approach, you would go into this particular field and pick the customer that you're looking for. Now, keep in mind that a lot of these reports, when you go into them, you have to be in the find mode for the drop downs to work. There's a purpose behind that, so that somebody can't come in here and inadvertently change these and then corrupt the data that's in there. When you're doing a find and you're looking for record information, you're picking it and it's not going to change the record entry and the information within it. But in the same vein, if you had to correct things in this report, you could do that by just clicking in and having that changed items, like the service start date, the service date itself, and the service due date. Those can be changed if they need to be right in the report. You can also look for the individual service person as a find. That's one way to do it. And if your narrative is consistent, like a 90-day, a 30-day, 120-day inspection, you could look for all those reports based on that information. Anything that has 90-day inspection would bring them up. So the finds are very flexible, and it adds a lot of information as far as breaking it down by the individual client ID. To edit the work order, you would go directly from here to the work order because there's a relationship between these because of the service information that you're working with. Let's go to the next item. We're in the scheduled service report. Next thing would be the invoice long. Now the invoice long, this is a pretty straightforward item. As we stated before, in this report, which it actually is a report, what you would be able to do, and like we said before in the previous video, balance due, paid for, and these different statuses over here, you can use them for the individual you're looking for. For example, what I would do is I would do a find, and then I would go to the ID for that particular person, that client that I want to bring up and see their data. Then I would omit records, or based on the actual status, I would set the status. I could have done a find for one for everything that has a balance due, and those are the records that would be shown if that's what I was looking for. If I wanted to see all the paid in full ones, I could do the opposite. I could say number 1 and paid in full if I wanted to see those. And then if I needed to alter them, I could omit the records appropriately for the ones that were paid, not paid, and balance due. And of course, there's a lot of information in here. There's hold, pending, paid in full, quote, and estimate and billed. Now, either the estimate or quote could be a separate invoice that you send out to the customer. Now, one of the things I want to point back out that I haven't really gone into any depth is the invoice number in here. What I like to do when I'm doing an invoice number, because this can be edited by any invoice that you're actually sending out, what you do is, you'll notice when I click in here and I click in 3, it changes the information at the top of the screen just to show the items for the third, in Bernie Sanders, the third ID. If I wanted to see up here and bring it in, I have the option when I'm doing an invoice to sequentially change these without the computer doing it for me. So if I wanted to build an invoice where there was a quote within it, I could set that as 1, and then if I came back in, I could do a different billing and take that one that now is quote and change it to invoiced, and then send that out as a separate invoice, and I would cycle this number to number 2 so that I could differentiate the two invoices that were sent. It just gives you a lot more flexibility as far as how the invoices are sent and how they're managed. The question you may ask yourself is, why do we have a report for an invoice? Well, what happens in a business like an equipment business, they use up a lot of real estate for billing. They may build micro items in it. And what happens is when you do the report, a standard report in this database would be 24 to 28 lines. If you went beyond that, you would have an issue because it would not print anything below those 24 to 28 lines. In this particular case, you can have as many lines as you want and manage them in this report as you need to, and then bill once, twice, 3 times, depending on what the nature of the information is on the status. For example, if it's a quote and you're sending out an entire quote invoice, you could send it out. It's not going to be paid because it's a quote. So each item that is quoted, you can change as the client actually accepts and actually installs or has the service done, and you would switch it over to a different setting for that particular information. Now, you can set the statuses in the actual application and put in additional items in this list if you need to, and that's done by picking the status for the invoice on the billing area. And those are those lists down here and up here that have a list for status and so forth. Okay, let's go down to the next one. We did the actual one, the payment and billing report. Just a quick look at that. It's one we've looked at before, and you can see the information on it as far as it's each individual payment item by the ID and name. So that's what you're looking at in this report. And again, if you do a find, you're going to have to run this in order to bring up the headers on here. And if you need to bring everything back in, you can always do the show all right here to put the information back on the screen. Now, be aware, obviously, that as you deduct, say you go to the 1 item in a find, it's only going to show that 1 row or rows that are for that particular payments for that client. And the obvious thing in here is this is a balance sheet for his payments and his billings to make sure that you have all the money in that you're supposed to be expecting. The red area here and here shows that this bill is not paid in full. So if you're running a report, you can go in and you can put anything that's greater than 5 cents in here as far as the formula to see this, which would be greater than, which the arrow key to the right, pointing to the right, would be what you'd put in there ahead of this, and then put 0.05. Then everything that's over 5 cents will be shown. Okay, let's move to the next item. The payment list view is showing the summary of the information for the payment in the payment list view and the balances that are due. So this is a secondary where you can go in and find all the balances that are outstanding and then go to the individual report for that payment that is due. And you can see the summary of all the bills that have not been paid and the amounts that have been paid and the amount dues. Okay, so that's all the information. And how it is paid and the information for that and the date that it's being paid. Okay, let's go down to the next item. The payment report and now the payment portal. Payment portals are typically like this. It's the information in the rows, the client and the company, and you can move to the payment report or the payment listing from here, or you can delete the record if required to. The company location report. This is a report that breaks down the company locations so that if you had to look them up, and telephone numbers and all that kind of stuff, it's available to you. And as always, run the report if you have the information you need to put in there. In this case, these are all listed by the company rather than by the client, so you can see the information in there, although the client is listed in here as primary contact. And then there's the company location map. If you click on this, it will bring up the location map, and this is not something we've covered yet. So you'll see that that's exactly where the customer location map is if you want to see it. And of course here you can get directions to it if you had to. Let's go to the next screen. The data portal. Now the data portal is the one where it showed the large screen with the information that you had, which was related to any transactions or information or website data or pictures that you wanted to add to the data portal. The Booking UDF is its standalone screen from the portal on the main customer information screen, where it has the information that you put into the portal records. And here's where you would do a find, and you can either do it by the company, the booking ID, and in this particular case for the UDF, to see that client, all the records for that, and then you can go ahead and look at the list view for the Booking UDF, and that would show you all the things for that particular client or clients with all the data that they've put in for the user-defined fields. Let's go down to the next one. We did the list view. Service material is any service material from this is the portal for the service material, and it has that data for the items that are used in the servicing for materials. The list priority. Now these are going to be those lists like we did before. This is for the work order priority. You have routine and urgent. If you wanted to put something different in here, you could do that. And of course, it would take you back to the work order or other places where that particular information is used. Then we have the list installed and not installed as far as processed and repaired and so forth. You can also alter this to whatever you need to for the work order. The equipment type, and these are the ones that are in the inventory for the equipment type, and you can change these. Like this shouldn't really be an uppercase, so you might want to edit that information. I put them in there. Actually, this data was probably done by the guy that was testing this on the cloud, and when I pulled it off the cloud, I didn't take these things and change them. That's how he typed it in. It's kind of nice to know how people do stuff, because you can see where they make mistakes and then call them back and let them know what they did. List of equipment status. In this particular case, this is that status one that we use in several screens, where you'll see the information, and this is equipment, where you'll see all the data. Now you can change this to whatever you want as far as the information is concerned that's appropriate for the way you want to run your business. And of course you can go right to equipment services to see that information as far as where it's at in the actual equipment itself in the area. And of course we have those different things that we showed before, where we have the history, the purchase history, and the stock serial numbers. Now that concludes most of the ancillary screens that we have not touched on before now. If you see or need some more information, you can always contact us through the Developer's Word site by going to the Customer Information and clicking on this button at the top of the screen to go to the Developer's website. Thank you very much for taking all the videos. If you need any additional help, we will be available through chat or email. And one last thing, we may be adding a video or videos to the end of this application listing as far as on the main screen, on the main menu, when we have people that we think when they come in and give us feedback that there may be reasons why we have to adjust the actual information that's on the tutorials to fill in some of the holes that people bring information to us as far as their comments and questions. So you may see one or more additional videos later on in the process. I know one that we will probably be doing is that if you're going to use a product called FM Go on the iPad for the iPhone or iPad, there will be separate videos for that, but there's a standard separate video. But if we need to, we will do a special one just for this application. Thank you for taking the tutorials.